Hello and welcome to the ARARA online lecture series put on by the American Rock Art Research Association. I am Peter Annick, your technical host. Tonight's program will be recorded for posting on our YouTube channel, which is available at www.youtube.com/ARARA Rock Art, all one word. We currently have posted nearly 50 rock art related talks, and we encourage you to subscribe to our channel so you can be notified when new videos become available. And if you're interested in making a presentation yourself, you can contact us by email via the ARARA website. Our speaker next month will be April Noel, an expert on the Paleolithic, and that will be on February 22nd, so you can mark the date on your calendars. Tonight's speaker is Levan Losaberidze, coming all the way from Georgia, the country. He will be introduced by ARARA board member, Amanda Castaneda. So take it away, Amanda.
Hey, good evening. Thanks, Peter. Welcome to the first Aurora lecture series of 2025. We're so happy that you guys all joined us, and we hope you're having a really great start to the new year. I have a couple quick orders of business before I introduce Levan. The first is you should have received perhaps an email or something from Wild Apricot reminding you to pay your 2025 dues. I know it would make our treasurer very happy if you would remember to do so. We appreciate your compliance with that. And then the second order of business is that we have our 2025 conference coming up. You may know about it. It's going to be hosted in Visalia, California, so kind of the Central Valley, California. And that those dates are May 22nd through 27th. And I know the conference committee has been hard at work for months already, so it should be a really great conference. And the one deadline I'll remind you of is if you're interested in submitting an abstract for that conference, the deadline is approaching, I believe it's February 1st. And you can look to our website for more information on how to submit your abstract, and all the conference information will be posted there. So with that, I would like to introduce our speaker tonight, Levan Losaberidze. He is an archaeologist and a rock art researcher from the country of Georgia. So we thank you for joining us. I think it's really early for you right now. He is the founder of the Georgia Association of Rock Art, and he's really been spearheading rock art research efforts in Georgia since about 2017. As a fun fact, Levan was the very first recipient of an ARARA Student Research Award back in 2019. We're just been really thrilled with the trajectory of his career and the work that he's been doing, and we're so happy to see that. And if you're anything like me, you know almost nothing about the rock art of Georgia, and so I'm going to stop yapping and let Levan take it away. So thank you for joining us, Levan. The floor is yours.
Thank you for introducing me, Amanda. Let me share my screen. Well, thank you for having me, and I will present the topic that you can see here. It's an overview of the last 10 years research of rock art in Georgia. And but before I start talking about this recent research, I will start with the background history, as everything has a background. This study in Georgia of rock art has its own background. And here you can see the timeline of the phases of rock art research in Georgia. And it starts quite early, surprisingly, in 1880s. And then we have some occasional discoveries from 1930s and following to the following decades until the modern time. And just to have a quick understanding what's happening in the 1880s in Georgia, you may know it's part of the Russian Empire, and I must say that there is quite growing interest towards the antiquities in like from mid 19th century in Georgia, and since it's a bit remote place in terms of the empire scale, still it's like cultural hub, regional hub of the Caucasus region. I mean Georgia, and especially Tbilisi, the capital of Georgia, is the like center of this region, the Caucasus region. And from the mid 19th century, we have a Caucasus Museum here. And then from the around 1880s, exactly in this decade, uh, there is a huge conference held in Tbilisi, which was organized by the Russian Imperial Archaeological Society, and it took place here in Tbilisi, which was attended by around 400 scholars, including some leading scholars of the time, like Heinrich Schliemann, Oscar Mondelius, Gabriel de Mauzière, Ernst Schand, and so on. And some of these scholars even worked in Georgia in this period. And in this decade, so it was not very accidental discovery, as you can see, because there was already lots of interest and research attempts, mostly by amateur scholars. And one of them was amateur archaeologist Joachimov, who I who found the site that he just made one simple document. He just wrote a letter about this site. He did not took any photographs because for that time it would be quite difficult, and he did not do any drawing, unfortunately. But luckily, he wrote a letter where he mentioned the location briefly, and in this letter uh, he wrote to his colleague that he found this site, and it's very unfortunate for him that this colleague, Evgeny Weidenbaum, could not come to Zalga, the region where the site was found. And here is why, as he says that imagine that in the river gorge near the village Patilisa, I discovered caves with the hunting scenes on the walls. This is a whole gallery of paintings of savages who lived once in Zalga. So this letter was dated to about 1880s. We don't know the exact date. The letter is written in Russian, as you can see. But the letter was lost for almost a century, and only in the 1970s the archaeologists will find this letter, and we will get back to this topic a bit later. And now we will move forward to the 1930s, when in this period some Russian archaeologists worked in Georgia. It's already the Soviet period, and in this time, as I said, some Russian archaeologists worked in Georgia, especially in the western Georgia. There are lots of caves with the occupation from like Middle Paleolithic, Upper Paleolithic period. And one of the cave is the cave complex is in Voimevi in western Georgia, where one of these Russian archaeologists, Sergei Zamyatin, studied this cave complex, and he found some engravings there that you can see in this photo. The abstract markings, let's say, and he dated them to the Upper Paleolithic period due to some discoveries on the floor, like containing lots of Upper Paleolithic lithic assemblages, let's say, mainly the flint assemblage. And following this decade in the 1930s, in the same region, around briefly, like in the western Georgia, but let's say more in the northwest, in the Abkhazia region, which is now occupied by Russia. Another Russian archaeologist, Leo Solovyov, discovered another cave called Akhta, and he found some quite similar scratch marks on the wall, as you can see on the left side photo. And on the right side, uh, these these markings, these signs, probably I would say, are more like from historical period, definitely. As you can see, the crosses, some of the signs here are from the ancient Georgian alphabet. So these signs are definitely from the prehistoric period, but as I said, the left ones were also considered as Paleolithic. And later in the 1940s, sometime during the World War II period, uh, another group of archaeologists studied the, um, this family mountain. It's quite mysterious place due to some legends related to this place, as if Amirani, local prototype of Prometheus, was chained here on this mountain. And some, besides this, some historical sources mention that in the medieval time, Georgian kings kept their royal treasure in this mountain. So, I mean, in the caves or the tunnels, somewhere the hidden treasure was kept there. And these legends bring archaeologists in these caves, but they found simply like man-made caves with the walls on the front, and these walls and these shelters were made to protect themselves from the enemies in the medieval period. And in the caves, they found rather simple, like pottery vessels. I mean, the shards of pottery vessels. But what they found there was more interesting. The paintings on the walls, as you can see. Well, there is not some good documentation of these paintings from the modern period, like the photographs. So I brought here the original drawings made by the expedition members. So these paintings, these drawings, as you can see, they were copied with pencil and oil. So you can see the horse raiders here. The paintings are made with the red ochre, and probably the man in the chain or a man in the jail, sorry, or something like that. Uh, and this site hasn't been studied since then, and I haven't visited the site yet. So another decade and another site was studied in the 1950s and 1960s when prominent Georgian archaeologist Losaberidze studied massive kurgans in South Georgia. So the kurgans are huge burial mounds with a chamber inside, and these burial mounds are some of them were like 100-meter in diameter and about 8 to 10 meter in height. So as you can see, these kurgans, the construction, I mean, they have a passageway and they have a chamber where the dead body was placed. And in these chambers and the passageway as well, so the archaeologists found lots of engraved slabs, and one of them you can see here. But this one, as it's vertical and it's upright, it's very exceptional. And the rest of them, there were hundreds. They were like uh, this stones. I mean the horizontal stones, like in the wall. And many of them were engraved, and I will get back to them later. And now in the 1970s, now I'm mentioning the site that I started with, the site that was found in the 1880s, and the only letter was existed about this site. So in the 1970s, the archaeologists came across this letter that was written in like a century ago, and eventually they found this site. They found about 100 engravings displayed on 6 different panels, as you can see on this uh, sketch, and some the photos were taken, and the site was uh, extensively studied, I must say, for that time. And the last site not studied, but let's say located during the Soviet period was Damirgaya, the site that was accidentally found by archaeologists who was excavating late Neolithic settlement in this area in the south in South Georgia. So he was informed about the site, and he was brought there. But as you can see, what I brought here is only a quick sketch from his personal notebook, and apparently he did not do any like drawing or photographs of the shelter or the paintings. So he just made this quick sketch, and he just dedicated this very short description in his report for the archaeological excavation. And yeah, that was all for what this guy and all other people during the Soviet time have done for the rock art. And after this, I started with my colleagues. I started studying, like gathering all of this information, and this is the picture that we have today. This is the most updated map of all the sites, all the rock art sites in Georgia. As you can see, there are two types of dots, red and yellow. So we have rock paintings and rock engravings, and one very important site that we have real petroglyphs that has both petroglyphs and pictograms at the same site. So from this midpoint, I will start with our own research and showing all of the like showing very briefly the results that we have from our studies. And before I do that, I want to show you this map, to have a brief understanding of the geology of Georgia. So you can see there are two main regions where we can search for rock art sites in the future. So it's basically Western Georgia, which composed of limestone karst. Mainly, this blue one is the limestone, and there is a big accumulation of the caves that you can see. These red dots with numbers, they are caves. Many of them are excavated. And in the southern Georgia, we have this red area, which is the volcanic rock. And if I go back to the map and see the sites that we have found, yeah, they just are located in the same areas that I said is very, I mean, the most promising for searching rock art sites. And so let's get started with this. This was the first site, I mean, the last site I mentioned during from the Soviet research, and the first site I started my research with, and this was the first site that, as Amanda mentioned earlier, was funded by ARARA. And here we did some archaeological excavation and some multidisciplinary research, let's say. So this site is located right on the border of, with Armenia. So let's say behind this ridge that you can see here in this photo, there is a state border with Armenia with a fence. And so you can see this rocky outcrop on top of the ridge and the slope here, and some collapsed rocks, huge boulders. They are spread like all over this slope. Many of them are not visible in the picture, but trust me, there are like tens of this size of boulders collapsed from this outcrop some time ago, and they are just spread around. And well, uh, obviously, the most important and most interesting one is this, which has this kind of dome shape inside. And but if you notice this rock here, because we noticed when we were walking here, and because of the shape and the size, we thought it might have been part of this big boulder one. And then we did photogrammetry of these two stones separately, and then we got this result. So we found out that this stone, which is like about 20 meters away, was once part of this boulder, and it collapsed due to some geological processes. And then we got a rock shelter, a tiny space, but yet very important for like prehistoric people. So as I said, we did some archaeological excavations here. You can see some results, some most important results. We made a small scale excavation in the rock shelter, I mean, in the entrance. So the aim was to find out if this rock shelter contained some archaeological layers and deposits. We didn't find anything like that, but what we found in the stratigraphy, it was still very interesting because, for example, number 4 here, you can see. So we observed a rock alteration process here, which is very interesting. And in terms of the materials, uh, as you can see, we haven't found much, and most of them were found on the surface. But in the lithic collection, the tiny collection, we found the tool that is very interesting and tell us a lot about the possible dating of this shelter. This scraper, which is made of flint, is a very typical tool for the late Neolithic culture, which is distributed in this area. Like from this rock shelter in 5-10 kilometers, we have already some settlements from this late Neolithic culture, which contains this kind of tool. And we suggest that the date of the earliest occupation of the rock shelter uh, can be related to this period, which is like 6th, 5th millennium BC. And these are the paintings that we found there, like typical schematic rock art. Like we have zoomorphic, geometric figures, and anthropomorphic figure as well. Only one. And also we have modern graffiti, probably made in the Soviet time. There are some names written in the Cyrillic alphabet in Russian, which was like a lingua franca in Soviet time, and local population was mostly using this Russian alphabet. So they just wrote some names over the original painting. And another site we studied during this period is Ruimevi, that the site I mentioned it was studied in the 1930s initially by Russian archaeologists, and it was quite tricky that all the scholars who mentioned this site, who referenced that once in this site, in this cave complex was found these Paleolithic engravings. All of these scholars, like mostly local scholars, obviously, they were saying that these engravings were either lost or they never existed or something like that. And when we read all of these references, we assume that uh, either they haven't been there and they just wrote this kind of assumption without visiting the site, or if they went, they haven't found, they failed in rediscovering, let's say, these engravings, and so they just did wrong assumption in any way. So because of this reason, we visited this site, and we eventually found the engravings, but we found on the floor, which is not very common location uh, for rock art. Doesn't matter it's engraving or the paintings, and we understand that it's because of very unclear discovery from the original author from Russian scholar Samyatli, because in his description it's very unclear whether these engravings were found on the floor, on the wall, on the ceiling, or where. So we started looking for everywhere, and eventually we found them on the floor, which was actually this area that now is in the picture and showing here with the arrow. It was covered with modern debris, and we just accidentally found one of the engravings, the most prominent one that you can see here, this number 9, and it was found by Zamyat in 1934. And besides, I mean, except for this one that we just found on the floor, then we cleaned the area like 2 by 2 meter in 2022, and we found 10 engravings in total, just simple um, scratches. Uh, some of them were found by Zamyatli, some of them not. And then we, in 2023, again with the funding from ARARA, we expanded the study here, and we found some more engravings, and now in total we have like um, from 20 to 30 engravings, and we are still studying them. And now here you can see some of the engravings and the lithic assemblage as well. Yeah, these engravings are from the last year, and the lithic assemblage that on the left you can see those found by Zamyatin, and some of them were taken to St. Petersburg by him. Unfortunately, we don't have access to them. And on the right hand side, you can see the lithics found by us, the lithic tools. And obviously, this site hasn't been dated, I mean, with absolute dating, but we have a lot of dated sites, like C14 dated sites from this region, like very near from this site. And based on comparisons, I mean, in terms of the lithic tools, we have brief understanding of the chronology of this based on the lithic tools, and it can be somewhere between 30 to 25 BC, but it doesn't mean that the engravings are from the same date. But the stratigraphy shows that engravings should be from somewhere made in the Upper Paleolithic, because if we see the stratigraphy again here, so there is this limestone rock, which is a floor here. So this floor has this engraving. Then it is covered with calcite, and then we have this like layer of I mean the archaeological layer, very thin layer, with the inclusions of these lithic tools or the chip stones. So the limestone rock with the engravings is the lowest layer, and then it's covered with the calcite and inclusions of flint tools. And now we move forward to another site that I already mentioned 2 times, so this Trialeti petroglyphs, which is the largest site found in Georgia so far. So it's located in the River Gorge in southern Georgia, and as you can see from the 70s, it contains 6 main panels. Well, in the current, in the recent studies, some archaeologists found some panels a bit far, like this one. And I just mentioned this one here because it's exceptional and it's painted panel, and I will show you this one a bit later. So the aim of our study was to advance the state of the art of the site, because even though the 70 study was quite good, it's been almost 50 years from that time, and we saw some need to update this documentation. And as you can see here, the site is composed of andesite basalt lava flows, and it made 4 terraces in the river gorge, and uh, you can see the location of these 6 main panels here. They are they're located in a like 50 to 100 meter uh, area, and they are very close to each other. They are on the flat basalt surfaces, and yeah, you can see from our study, you can see these grouped images of the animals. For example, the group of horses is displayed in different panels, of course, from different periods, different chronology. Uh, the dating for this, about the dating for the site, these archaeologists from the 70s, they presume that the oldest state here might be Mesolithic, and then following periods are like Bronze Age and medieval. But I disagree with this opinion, and I think that the earliest period here is the Neolithic. And the horse here, in the first photo, is the only example from this period, from the Neolithic. It's very exceptional, very different from all the engravings, all the styles. And I mean, from the original comparisons, studies in the Caucasus and in the Middle East, this style can be probably from the Neolithic period. And some other horses, we don't know exactly what period they can be, but this one is very interesting, and because of these lines here, these engraved lines, we assume that this can be representing a saddle. So because of that, this horse can be from the medieval period. Um, and besides the horses, we have the deer images that are also uh, a big variety in styles and the chronology. You can see some hunted deer here, like one deer covered with a net, one deer with a arrow in his haunch. These two deer on the top, you can see the similarity in style. This carved shape between the legs, uh, and this style is very popular in the large region, like from the Caucasus to Middle East, and they are dated to Bronze Age everywhere, specifically like between 4th to 3rd millennium BC. And we have this very interesting scene here, which is interpreted as a milking scene, like mama deer feeding a baby deer. And we also have, there are also some anthropomorphic figures. There are two main styles. The cruciform shapes, simple cruciform shapes like this, and rather sophisticated figures like these men figures, like we call them hunters because they are equipped with the bow and arrow, and they are depicted in the hunting scenes. Uh, and here you can see some of the panels, the full picture of the panel. This is number one panel. And you can see that this hunter is displayed with lots of animals, but obviously not all of them are from the same period, and they haven't been included in this. I mean, they haven't been made with at the same time with this hunter. There are two more panels, and then I mean, the two more interesting panels. I mean, this is one panel, but separated into two A and 2B. And here you can see these hunters again, depicted with some animals. And this one, panel 2B on the right hand side, is one of the most characteristic thing at this site. Well, and I want to just I want you to pay attention to this circle here, which is the main area of this panel. Other engravings in the peripheries are rather later period. So in this circle, if you notice, all of the animals are directed. They are all of them are oriented to the left. They are oriented to the one direction, except for this animal here, which is directed to the opposite direction. And on top of this animal, we see a bow and arrow, and it's interpreted as this animal was hunted by the hunters, which we don't see here, but we see the main weapon, right? So this animal was hunted, so it cannot no longer run away with the group, and it's therefore depicted in the reverse direction. And we have another interesting panel here, which is panel number 3, and it's severely damaged by both natural and artificial factors, you can see here. But what we have interesting here is this line of the Christian crosses. There are lots of crosses here like this on this line and here as well, about 10 crosses with the same style. And this kind of cross is very common in Georgia. I mean, in the churches, we see this kind of cross from about 5th century AD to 10th century or even later. So definitely in this case, it's a Christian cross. And as in prehistoric periods, in the historical period, this site would have been visited by lots of people and probably some Christian uh, like Christian yeah people who would make these crosses here. And as I mentioned earlier, we have very interesting panel here with the paintings, which was found recently by local agency of cultural heritage. And there are only 2 images here, but anyway, it makes this site very unique because in the same river gorge, in the same site, same complex, we have this uh, both type of rock art, let's say. So you can see one image contains 3 vertical lines, parallel lines, and another image contains animal figure, which is quite damaged and faded, but still we can see very briefly, we can see that it's animal figure. And the last site I studied recently is I studied these engraved slabs I mentioned. They were recovered from the kurgans. So in this slide, you can see in the first photo, you can see the general landscape in the area where these kurgans were excavated. So it's like a highland plateau, and the kurgans nowadays look like this. The excavated kurgans, which were excavated about 50, 60 years ago, and the reconstructions of these massive constructions, as you can see with the long ritual road, the passageway to the entrance leading to the burial chamber. And in these chambers, the archaeologists found lots of engraved slabs, and as I said earlier, most of them are with a horizontal shape, and I grouped them with the images Like the first row here contains rather chaotic lines. Then we have some more organized patterns like net shapes. Then we have here we have some geometric figures, different variations. And in the last one, we have two representations of dwellings. That is very important because as these kurgans are dated to the Middle Bronze Age, which is about uh, late third millennium to early second millennium. So from this period, we have very limited information about their settlement patterns, what kind of houses they live, and it's very interesting to see their perception in this time, their perception of the dwelling, and this is how they depicted their um, houses. And as I said, this is very exceptional flat with four segments of the engravings. In the first one, we can see this animal, which is damaged on the left side. I mean, the head is damaged, but with the antlers, we can say clearly that it's a deer. And then we have some geometric figures here and the net shape. And there are some more animal images, rather difficult to say in this case, but this one probably is a caprid, like a mountain goat. And yeah, in the last slide, I have just organized the typology of the motifs that we have quite big diversity of the motifs like nets, zigzags, chevrons, spiral-like motifs, waves, dotted rectangles, mesh triangles, dwellings, abstract signs, weapons, and zoom out. And I will just complete my presentation with a very recent discovery that was made in the region, in the southern parts of Georgia, where previously there was no rock art found, and it's very important. And it's also interesting that this rock art, as you can see, is made with the pecking technique, which is also first time in Georgia to find. And thanks to the researchers who found this site, I haven't visited this site yet because this rock art was found in the late autumn, and in this region, which is a very cold region, nowadays there is the snow. It will be until uh, early spring or even till April. So after that, I would like to visit this site and study. Uh, but with my preliminary understanding, they can be from the medieval period because we can see the horse riders, and yeah, it's very interesting and great news that we have another site in Georgia. And just to conclude the chronology, so we have Upper Paleolithic rock art, then we have Neolithic, Bronze Age, and Medieval Age. And this is all. Thank you for your attention. And here is my contact, and you can also find me in Google Scholar or ResearchGate and find my articles there. And thank you.
Thank you, Levan. You can unshare and we can launch into the Q&A section. So we had, I know you talked a little bit about the climate, but maybe you can talk a little bit more. Somebody asks, they're not familiar with the climate of Georgia, and several of your pictures showed houses located in caves or overhangs, and was wondering whether that's to protect from the summer heat or the winter snow, or both.
Oh, all right. Yeah, yeah. That's a pretty good question. Well, that picture, that slide that I showed, that these houses are located in the caves. So it was painted in 1838 when there was I didn't mention, but there was Swiss naturalist, archaeologist, geographer, whatever, Dubois de Montpellier, who traveled in Georgia at the time in the 19th century, and he drew this picture. So apparently, as we know from this picture and from from people who live there, so once in this not caves but rock shelters, let's say, people not I mean they haven't built, but it was like very simple and very temporal buildings that they just put there. I mean the houses we can call them, but yeah, it was like wooden constructions that they just uh, brought and they built there in these rock shelters. I don't know why they made this. I, this region is not very cold or something that it should be related to like very cold winter, and it's not very hot region as well. I mean, it's a very normal temperature there all the time. And yeah, I mean, and I didn't mention as well that this complex is a monastery. You may notice, you may saw the pictures that there is a monastery from the 13th century. But yeah, as we can see from the picture from the 19th century, yeah, the people built some temporal houses there, which nowadays are gone.
Okay, another question about the caves. Um, they could have been processing sites, I guess, for animal hunts is the question. And to which I'll add, you had that one site where you found some marks that were on the floor out in front of the cave. Do you think those could have been, kind of left over from processing as opposed to created sort of more in the way you'd normally think of creating rock art?
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with this idea. And this year we had another funding for this kind of research. So we did experimental research to study whether these engravings on the floor are left marks from some activities, let's say cutting meat or processing the meat or something like that. So we did some experimental study, and we also studied this original engraving with the microscope. I cannot mm, tell you much about the results yet because we just completed this field work very recently. But yeah, we believe that some of them can be the left marks from the daily activities, and they are not they should not be considered as rock art. But some of them are deliberate engravings, and they are considered as rock art.
Some of them are deliberate on the ground.
All of them are on the floor,
Hmm.
uh, but some of the engravings we think they should be considered as rock art. I mean, they were deliberately made as engravings, just not just marks from the activity.
And what's the diagnostic for that? Is it, how do you tell the difference between those two forms of
Well,
creation?
difference between them, if you noticed in the slides, uh, for example, I mentioned there was the thickest line, which would not be like from the cutting meat. I mean, it would not be just the result from the cutting meat because it's very thick line, it's very deep, and it has like single how to say um, flow, let's say. I mean, going back and forth, And when we did the experiment, it took like 5 to 10 minutes with with our technique, of course, with the flint tools to make this kind of deep and thick shape. So, and it's totally different from other engraved marks. So that's why I think it's different, and it's not the simple activity mark from the like food processing or something like that.
Hmm. On one of the sites, I think the largest site where you had the hunted animals,
Okay.
you also had a lot of I guess you'd call it abstract lines on those same panels.
Uh, should I go back to the presentation?
Sure.
Abstract lines, or you mean the
Well,
this
there were cases where you had the animals kind of drawn in, but behind that, the same panels also had a lot of other marks and
you mean
lines on them.
here or here?
Let's see. I'm not seeing. Have you shared the screen?
Ah, sorry, I haven't shared this. Uh, so do you mean this panel?
Let's see. Yeah, can you
All right. Yeah.
make it larger? Yeah, where was the one that had the deer and one
Uh,
in a net on one of them and in with an arrow on another one?
well, probably this one. Yeah, this one, I guess. Right.
Yeah. So I think seem to have recalled that there were also other lines in those same panels, if I'm looking at the right one.
Well, I haven't showed any other. This was.
Yeah, try
Uh,
hmm.
I don't understand which one do you mean?
Yeah, I'm not seeing the instance we saw. It was a close up of one of the photos.
Well, these are all from this site. This and this.
Yeah, maybe it was. Try the next one.
Next site. Maybe
No,
this
no, no,
one, you
no,
mean?
no. Yeah, okay. Well, let me just ask the question.
Okay.
When you do find animals and you also find other lines on the same panel, what does the superimposition tell you about the relationship between the two?
Well, yeah, okay. If we talk about superimposition, well, this site is a good example because, yeah, here we can see lots of superimposition. And, well, yeah, especially this image in terms of superimposition is very good example.
Right.
So here you can see I have colored different layers of engravings with different colors. That's it.
Uh-huh.
Uh, the earliest phase here we observe is this cruciform shape, the anthropomorphic figure. Then we have this zigzag line here, which overlies to this anthropomorphic. Then we have this yellow line uh, overlay to this layers, and the last one is this something shape, the black thick line, which is like the last layer. So yeah, in any case in superimposition, obviously we observe which one is the earlier, then we document in that way. I mean, the earliest and the later. Uh, yeah, and there are lots of superimposition cases. For example, here there are deers. I mean, in this panel we haven't uh, shown them in the superimposition, but there are a lot because it's the same panel. I mean, that time I did not do uh, I did not show this superimposition. But here, yeah, we have shown that these uh, violet color lines are all superimposed over the original engraving in this case.
Right. Yeah, because you're located, I mean, Georgia's located in kind of a crossroads right between the two seas, the Caspian and the Black Sea.
Yep.
So do you have rock art from areas to the various directions where you can see some of these same kinds of forms, but not superimposed, so you can kind of date them independently?
Yeah, most of the sites are like that. Uh, Basically, I would say only this site uh, has lots of superimposition, but in other sites we haven't found any superimposition.
Hmm. Yeah, because they definitely seem to be targeting the same area again, right over them.
Yeah, most of the sites are from Timbuktu.
Yeah. I had a question about the antlers on some of the animals, so maybe we can just leave the slides up. The question
All
is,
right.
the antlers are shown several different ways. So do you believe that represents different animals or different time periods
Uh,
or different styles?
do we know in which case, which slide it's about? The question is
Uh,
about.
no, but we have seen,
I mean, there are a lot of
yeah, maybe,
antlered animals here. Picture.
right. I mean, can you use the antlers to diagnose what animal is being represented?
I mean, in most of the cases, obviously there are deer. For example, here these two big animals. Uh, I mean, they are not realistically represented, so we just assume
Mm,
in most cases that they are deer.
yeah,
But for example, we assume that these animals are camels because of this humpback.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, so not very naturalistic, but enough to be indicative of what general animal it is.
well, yeah, of course, they are not very naturalistic. As I said, they are from the Bronze Age. Most of
Yeah,
these animals uh, depicted in this style, as you can see, most of these animals repeat the same style, this carved shape between the legs.
right.
And everywhere they are dated to the Bronze Age, like specifically from fourth, third millennium BC. And
Yeah,
they are found in many sites like in Gobustan, Azerbaijan, Iran, and I mean in this large area in the Middle East, they are found in many places. This style.
yeah, it's pretty interesting. Um, in terms, okay, so you're obviously doing a great service by trying to uh, summarize and have another look at the known rock art sites. So the question is, are most of these sites on private property? And in your estimation, what percentage of the sort of high probability areas have actually been adequately surveyed? Or is there still a lot more to be kind of
Okay,
searched
yeah,
through?
I will go back to the map. Well, about the properties, none of them, I guess, is a private property, except for this Muhimevi site, which is nowadays part of the monastery. So there is a nunnery there, and yeah, we just take, let's say, a verbal agreement from them to like allowance from them to work there every time, and quite simple. In other cases, the reality side and this site where we work, they are all state properties. So for the rock art documentation, which is a type of archaeological survey, uh, in Georgia, I mean, in terms of the law of the cultural heritage, you don't need a permit. to special permit to work on this kind of sites. Only for the archaeological excavation, the permission. I know it's different from most of the countries, but yeah, it's like this. So, and in terms of the geology that and you questioned, you asked another question. So the most prominent regions are definitely these two areas, the central part of Western Georgia, I mean, not central part, the edging part of Western Georgia to and other regions, like this area where I'm pointing at, and this red area where these volcanic rocks are distributed. These two areas are definitely the most promising, and I'm planning some extensive survey in this South Georgia uh, to try to identify more sites, and especially from this recent discovery that I showed in the last slide. It's uh, giving me some hope that there should be more because there have not been any survey like specifically on rock art sites anywhere in Georgia. And all of these sites I mentioned, even I myself haven't done any survey yet. And all of these sites I showed here, as you can already understand, they were found once, they were discovered once, but most of them were forgotten. So I I mean, with my colleagues, I rediscovered them and studied. So that's why I'm saying that I would like to do extensive survey in this area to study the area thoroughly and see uh, because there are lots of rocks, and where we have rocks, we may have rock art as well, right?
Right, and certainly with the limestone, is there any, are there any known deep caves in that area?
Well, yeah, there are many deep caves, like in very near vicinity of this site, maybe. In 2022, we did extensive survey only in this region, like there is a town, Giatura, and in the municipality of this Giatura area, we did the survey of the excavated cave sites, and many of them are very well known. So we just revisited these sites to check if, in case uh, archaeologists haven't noticed something in the caves uh, to be found, but we haven't found anything except for this primary site.
But you do have evidence of Paleolithic use of the deep caves?
I mean, it's already found. We did not do that kind of study. They
Yeah.
many of these caves are excavated and well dated, and so we have this information. We just checked the areas, I mean the caves itself, the walls,
Hmm.
uh, in case
Yeah.
we found something.
Um, okay, let's see. There's a question on that the slide you had with the big cluster of deer. Uh,
Okay.
People are asking how big are the animals on that, just to get a sense of it.
Well, there is a scale. It's 30 centimeter here. The panel itself is like uh, one and a half. I mean, the length is like this, 1.5 meter about, and the width is like 1 meter. It's just briefly. I mean, sorry, very rough dimensions. I don't remember exactly, but it's like that 1 meter to 1.5 meter, more or less. And the engravings itself, because they are different dimensions, so they are like from we can see here better. Yeah, like 10 centimeter to the largest one. This one can be like 20 centimeters. This one here.
20 centimeters. Okay, so it's a reasonable size. Um, let's see. I I hope that all the questions about the antlers have been answered. If not, if there's still something that someone wants to know about the antlers. People have noticed that some of the antlers are branched, some are in the same direction. But as you were saying, that's not necessarily naturalistic. So it sounds like that's just the way they like to portray.
Yeah, definitely not. You can see even in this panel, there are animals, especially deer, uh, drawn in the same style. Let's say we call it common style, but the antlers are totally different. In this case, we see a single line. I mean, we don't see these two lines of the antlers, right? Like here. Here is
Yeah.
totally different.
Okay, well, I think I've covered all the questions. Let me take a quick scan. Yes. All right, well, I think we're really appreciative of the work that you're doing, bringing all of this together, checking out the sites again, uh, examining and documenting them with up-to-date technology and methods. It's a real service to sort of bring Georgia up to date in terms of its rock art, and it's pretty exciting to look forward to what else you might find there. So I do want to thank you again for your presentation, and thanks to the attendees for your interest. And of course, if anyone would like to learn more about ARARA or get involved, we always invite you to check out our website and Facebook pages. Remember that it's now 2025, so members, we ask you to renew, or maybe you want to join for the first time to support the study and conservation of rock art. So until next time, which will be, let's see, February 22nd, when we'll be getting into the Paleolithic. Stay safe.